So how many of you have heard of the law of attraction? Yep, right? Okay, so the law of attraction tells us like attracts like. So this means that the more positive you are, the more you pull positive people in, the more opportunities that you get, the more choices that you actually put into orbit. So the law of attraction really just says throw it out there and it's going to come back to you tenfold. And it starts to begin to vibrate as a frequency of abundance. When you throw that positivity out there, it comes back to you and you can feel it. And the abundance that comes into your life continues to make yourself and your life feel more positive. So conceptualization in this way, there's no limit to how happy you can be or how much goodness and positivity you can attract. So that's kind of exciting when you think about that, all in our attitude. So could you answer this question? So if I asked you to, could you jot down a few notes here? I have great news. So I want you to write down some awesome news that you have for a friend. Just jot a quick note down. What's some awesome news right now that you have for a friend? So hopefully everybody had a little tidbit there of some awesome news. So what I would have wrote down was my awesome news to tell all of you, my friends, today was this morning I actually got to go to campus and we gave all of our PPE away to Crivet's Fire and Rescue and Bell and Health. So that was really cool, right? So you can start to feel that positivity coming out just by sharing that. So as you think about this slide, the question here is really, what does this prove? Well, it really does demonstrate a simple point. You chose to write something down there. You chose to share something. You chose your thoughts. You decided on that focus and you decided on what to share. And nobody else came up with that idea to share, you did. So in other words, you have the capacity to determine what is in your head at any time. You can make the decision to think any thought you wish and really on demand. So this is really what the power of positivity is all about. So positivity, and we've heard this over and over again, right? This is one of those key mantras, one of those cliches that we tend to hear over time. Positivity is a choice, right? Positivity is a choice. And I think we truly all believe that. The power to control our thoughts is a significant capacity. If you don't like a thought, you can stop it. If you like a thought, you can certainly ponder over it. If you could coin a phrase, you could do that as well. And you can also, fortunately or unfortunately, think the unthinkable at times. So we have total control of what's in our head. And once you have made that choice, then you can decide what to use with it. You can choose to make those thoughts positive. You can choose to make those thoughts negative. There's a moment in time sometimes where you're probably choosing to make them anxiety provoking, especially in the state that we're in. Or you can simply choose to have them be more positive and be more harmonious. The choice is really exclusively yours. And it takes nothing more than that. It just takes making that choice. So what do you think? Does that sound simple? I can see you shaking your head. No, it doesn't sound simple. We would love it to sound simple, but just kind of getting ourselves in that frame of mind, it is kind of liberating when you have the awareness that you can have this power, right? And it's a practice. We have to keep practicing to have those positive thoughts. We have to keep choosing to focus, and we have to acknowledge the fact that when we do have those negative thoughts, is acknowledge them, but then choose to either let them go versus choosing them to have that anxiety-ridden frustration that we can sometimes have with it. So it's really kind of a huge awareness piece of our own selves. I love this quote from Martin Luther King. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving. And that's kind of what our brains need to do when it comes to thinking about positivity. We have to keep moving. We have to acknowledge that negative thought and then move past it quickly so that we can kind of flip that paradigm and make it the positive thought. So it's time to kind of delve into what that positive person kind of looks like and what that positive person can do. So most of us can really talk ourselves into the positive thought or feeling. Sometimes it's far-reaching, sometimes it's sustainable, and it really makes a difference. But the important thing is that we have to agree to stay positive and focus on our areas of life. So there are at least 7 habits that are proven to hold up as you tap into your positive thinking. So I'm going to talk about those 7 habits and then talk about how we can develop them for ourselves personally and professionally. I'm going to give you some techniques and some suggestions that could maybe help you in different ways behave and act and think differently. And each of the 7 habits that we're going to discuss has a range of different approaches. So think about the 7, and as you go through and maybe you're taking some notes, maybe they don't all resonate with you, but maybe there's one that really does. And you can think about how can you add this into creating more unique goals, focusing on your values, focusing on them from a personality perspective, and how can you add them into that habit that you're trying to create when working to stay more positive. So habit number 1 is the power of people. This is my favorite habit because you think about laws of attraction. Surround yourself with like, right? So the phrase, the people you surround yourself with, you become, nicely captures just how important that social circle is. So to become more positive and to stay that way, we have to build those connections with people who are good at sending us those positive vibes back. So right, as a leader at Rasmussen, how many of you have done StrengthsFinder? And you know your top 5 strengths. So, okay, you can figure it out. One of my top 5 strengths is positivity. So I get a lot of people that come into my office that come and say, Jen, I just need your positivity for today. So that can be a little daunting sometimes, right? Because I'm giving a lot of myself from a personality perspective to pump people up from a positivity perspective. But there's where that like attracts like. So I fuel from that as well. So if I'm pumping people up, that positivity that they're vibrating back to me totally fills my bucket. So if you ask yourself, how can I surround myself with successful people? Know that the first step is to nurture those existing relationships that you have, that with those people around you that help you achieve your goals. You might connect with people that have different passions, that help you work in different fields. You might surround yourself with positive and successful men and women, friends and children. Oh, I think the key thing here is like attracts like. So the more time you spend with successful people, the more time you spend with positive people, the more you'll find yourself meeting new people who inspire and motivate you, not only to exceed, but to be happier in life. And this is going to enhance the power of positivity in you as well. So one of the easiest ways to work out who you want to surround yourself with is, and therefore really kind of who you want to become, is to do an exercise where you think about your ideal role model. So just take a brief moment. When you think about that ideal role model, what are some of the traits that that person has? What are they good at? How do they act? We've done this over and over again when we think about those positive leaders in our lives. So we kind of know what those habits are. And this gives you that concrete sense of the type of people that you should aim to spend more time with and to sustain those friendships and to sustain those relationships. And it's okay to acknowledge that there are negative people in your life, and it's okay to let those negative people in your life go as well. So something to think about.
Jen?
Yeah.
Just a couple comments that have been made so far.
Awesome.
One was actually me. What I have found, because I find that Facebook these days, social media, has really affected my positivity in a not so positive way.
Yes.
And I just recently learned about newsfeed eradicator from Facebook, and that has been a godsend for me. So what I do is, whenever I go into Facebook, I know I got stuff I got to post on there for business purposes and that kind of thing. But when I go on my Facebook pops up, the only thing that's in my feed are positive quotes, and that's it. I mean, if I want to go looking for stuff, I can find it. And then someone else, Cheryl, said I found not watching media, news, and Facebook gives her time to calm her thoughts and to think on positives in life.
Yeah. It's so true that, especially right now, that social media is really weighing down on a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of positive things out there. There are, but there's also a lot of negative things out there, and it's how we decide to filter through that, Michelle, that's going to be imperative to help each of us keep that positive attitude, um, personally and professionally, in what we're going through, right? So the timing couldn't be better as we think about the power of positivity. So habit number 2 is the power of words. So when you think about this, the words that you choose play a dramatic role in being very positive. So your language affects the view of yourself, right? We all have negative thoughts about ourselves. We're human, we're women, we get it. But it also affects your capabilities and then your expectations of yourself. So success habits require you to be realistic and confident, pushing out the best that you can be. So therefore, people who attract success learn how to refine their language, really stripping their vocabulary of that the negativity, the negative thoughts, the negative words that come into play. So when you think about the power of words, pay attention to the word choices that you make. For example, you're going to hear a lot of people say, I can't, I never, I shouldn't, I couldn't, I wouldn't. I mean, we could go on and on, right? So when you think about those key words that I just said here, I challenge you just even today to see how many times you hear people say those words. It actually is incredible. I did it yesterday, just kind of practicing. And in a 3-hour time span, I heard it 15 times. And that was mainly an email, right? It wasn't necessarily in a face-to-face, it was mainly an email. So the power of words that you choose verbally as well as written can have a huge impact, and they cause us to feel less empowered, less positive, less negative. And now we're having a preconceived judgment to say, well, why are they saying they can't do this, right? So we really have to notice the ways that we're speaking and notice the ways that we're even sending our emails, because we want to build up that positivity. And we have to think about how we, as those leaders, as those women that have the opportunity to inspire and influence someone every single solitary day, can help to change things up just by choosing a little bit of a play on those words.
Lori said that when she's overwhelmed, she uses the words, I am enough, and she said she immediately feels better. And Jody had indicated that her pet peeve is, I struggle.
Yeah, great. I was reading, I just finished reading a book, Everything is Figure Outable. And her big thing was, I haven't been able to do this yet. So even if you have that negative kind of, like, you got a little negative shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't in there, even if you finish that sentence with yet, it kind of gives it a little bit more power to say, yeah, I'm going to do this. I haven't done it yet, but I still have that positive connotation that goes along with it. Power of words is incredible. And we don't even realize the impact it's having most of the time. So habit number 3 is the power of reading. Many of us grow out of reading once we get the habit. So you remember when you were in grade school and you got that study habit down and you were able to read, and then you kind of got that positivity mindset, you boosted your mind. I mean, studies really prove that boosting your mind by improving your vocabulary and building your knowledge, reading creates the psychological growth in a number of ways. Fascinating studies, I wrote this down, show how reading can help us become more compassionate and empathetic. When we read, we often have to switch our perspective, right? We're coming from the perspective of the author when we're reading. And the better we get at doing this and move into that ability to relate to others, even those can have dramatic differences. There are even brain scans out there suggesting that when we read fiction, in which characters go through certain experiences, studies reveal that our brains display activity similar to actual experiences in our real life. So it translates that. So does this affect the power of positive thinking? There are a couple of different connections here that kind of go with that. It's between that enhanced empathy and keeping a positive mindset. And having that empathy helps us to build those better relationships that also involve reciprocal support. And secondly, that empathy also helps us to develop a sympathetic worldview, an empathetic worldview. Rather than seeing people as good or bad, we see them as products of their environment and their experience, and therefore we can connect with them differently. But really thinking about just that reading and kind of setting empathy aside, reading allows us the opportunity to immerse ourselves into a power that exposes us to new ideas. Reading prompts us to challenge things that we might not otherwise have challenged. It helps us to think differently. And it helps us also to re-examine and replace old beliefs that are no longer serving us. And they inspire us to make the change. So what the studies are showing is not only is it those awesome self-help and professional development books that I personally like to read, but it's also those fun books that allow us to have a new experience and a new idea that might just spark something and help us create more positivity in our life. Michelle, any thoughts on reading?
Jen, do you think audiobooks would have the same impact?
I do. I do think audiobooks would absolutely have the same impact. And I think the audiobooks kind of do two things, because the power of words comes in there, and then the power of reading as well, right? So it's creating that virtual experience, but yet you're hearing it from someone else's point of view. So it's twofold. I think it could be even more powerful. Great question. So let's talk about the power of tuning in. If you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be, right? So true. So habit number 4 is the power of tuning in. I call it mindfulness. And I think one of our previous speakers, she had that one slide, I got it from her. It was, is your mind full? Are you being mindful, or is your mind full? I love that, right? Because it causes us pause to really think about that. So tuning into your higher consciousness can make a massive difference, really, in your ability to create positive thoughts. So what this means is getting to know yourself really at a deeper level. This is about your self-reflection. Practicing those techniques, tapping into your self-conscious. Some of the best positive thinking exercises for mindfulness is meditation. And many of us work really hard to do this, stillness in our lives. But even basic breathing exercises can induce calmness and kind of bring us back to that good spot where we need to be more mindful. So I challenge you. So here's your challenge when it comes to the power of tuning in, is to really focus on those breaths. So this is kind of that yoga-esque piece. Can you take 10 minutes a day to just do some breathing exercises, or take 10 minutes a day just do some meditation, or take 10 minutes a day to do some journaling, and help those random thoughts get out so that you can create the more positive thoughts? Because when you use these types of techniques and meditation and breathing, it helps you with your imagery. It helps you with gradually filling in the light around you to create that positivity. It helps you feel it from the bottom of your toes to the top of your head. And it's kind of like that glow. It's the shine that you bring every single solitary day. When you feel optimistic, when you feel energized, when you feel positive, you're bringing the shine. And that's kind of what we all strive to do as we're thinking about how we're adding more positivity into our lives. Michelle, anything with tuning in?
Jolene had just mentioned, which she talked about also, is using breathing exercises as well.
Awesome. Very true. All right. I lost my little counter thing. Oh, there it is. Perfect. All right, habit 5. Now we're going into the work piece of it. So we kind of start out with people and words and language and being thought-provoking. Now let's talk about the power of experience. So when you think about experience, one of the key things about experience is that bloom that comes from experience. We all have our life experience that provides us guidance into how to be more positive. It also provides us guidance in reasons why at times we're negative, right? That life experience creates those emotions within us. So when you think about experience, I want you to really think about how you can cultivate through your experience that positive mind. So even if it's some of those negative things that happen, how much of that have we just kind of inundated in ourselves that we really took a look at it and got it out? we could really think about how that even that negative experience can help us be more positive. How much do we take for granted in our lives? How much are we overlooking the facts? How do we harness that power of that experience behind us to create that positive thinking and to welcome in those incredible things that can happen to us every day? So a great way to do this is, again, journaling, but many of you probably already keep a gratitude journal, right? It's all those key things that we're grateful for when we're feeling that negativity kind of hone in, whether it's a work experience that we're having or a personal experience having. It's going back to that gratitude journal and seeing all those great things that we're grateful for to get us back into that positive mindset. Because it's also crucial that we make room for that gratitude within each and every one of our experiences for ourselves, most importantly for ourselves, but for others as well. So when you write those things down, it at least creates that entry for you to build on that experience, to open up that door to welcome that experience within you. Go ahead, Michelle.
Just a couple of things. First of all, going back to the last one real quick, Peggy just indicated that she's reading, and Peggy, you may have to chime in on this one. She's reading Da Vinci's Distressing. There are some great breathing exercises. And then Lori had said that she's taking Yale's happiness class, and she says that experiences make us happier because we don't compare experiences to others like we do with material things.
That is so true. That is so true. One of the key things, Michelle, that kind of brought a thought to mind, when we talk about empathy and we talk about the power of experience, one thing that I've been trying to work on that I think it's just a good little takeaway is that term, when we talk about the power of language, that term "at least." So someone's telling you a story, right? And you're supposed to be there and mindful and listening to the story. And then many times we come in and say, well, at least that didn't happen to you this way, or at least that didn't happen to you that way, or at least you were able. So I'll give you my own personal example. I don't have children. So when some people complain to me about their children, they will say, well, at least you don't have children. Right? So it's that creates a negative connotation that goes along with it. So that's one of those power of language things to try to take out. If you catch yourself saying "at least," how can you? Is it in the right context of "at least" when you're having that conversation? So another good takeaway. So our next habit, number 6, is the power of choice, and we kind of started out with choosing positivity. You can only see a short distance ahead, but we can see plenty there that needs to be done. This is the power of choice, right? When we're developing habits, and even when we're developing the habit of creating more positivity in our lives, we have to encourage ourselves and others to create that habit. And we have to remember that we have total control over whether we succeed or fail, right? It's in our head. So for example, kind of going back to some people have that victim mindset, telling themselves that they're merely responding to their circumstances, that all the bad things always happen to them, and they feel that they don't have a choice of what happens to them, and they're stuck in that mindset. So another great book that I've been reading is called what was it called? I have to find it. The Right Mindset, and it talks about having either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And the fixed mindset is just that. It's sticking in that fixed mindset of, oh, woe is me, this always happens to me, this is my life. Or it's choosing that growth mindset or that creator mindset. And if you choose that creator mindset, you view yourself as the architect of your own life. You get to choose what it looks like. You get to attract those successful people. You get to adapt and evolve from your past experiences, and that can help you improve. But also this requires moving you away from your comfort zone, because we tend to get stuck in our own thoughts. It's moving from a place that feels good in the short term because we kind of wallow in that, but that's what stifles our longer term growth. And we all know that growth is scary and growth is change. And growth is about coming who we're meant to be, and that's exciting. But we tend to always take a step back and say, well, maybe that imposter syndrome is going to set in, and that's not for me. So how do we keep that growth mindset going? So when you combine that creator mindset with a growth mindset, you get an approach that really fosters constant positivity. It helps you take on those negative and challenging situations. It helps you choose to be more optimistic and have an optimistic viewpoint. It helps you to use your life's lessons to be more useful and more productive than negative. And it helps you to generate a new mind map for yourself, a new way to go by surrounding yourselves within those positive ideas. And if we do it often enough, we create the habit, right? If we work to switch that thought process and we choose to have that growth mindset and that creator mindset, it just becomes second nature. And we tap into that power of choice then, because we're making that choice for ourselves. Michelle, anything?
Okay, yes. Shannon is asking, imposter syndrome. Please explain a bit.
So imposter syndrome, and Michelle, help me where you can here. So imposter syndrome is, we feel like we're not good enough. We question our abilities. So for example, and I'll use my own personal example. For a very long time, I had a hard time embracing and telling people that I was the dean of a college. Who gives me that right to be the dean? Oh my God, that's a huge title. What comes with that? I'm not worthy. So I feel like I'm not good enough or not worthy enough, and I'm faking it. And those little voices talk on my head or talk on my shoulders, right, to say, yes, you are good enough. No, you're not good enough. Yes, you are good enough. So we embrace that, no, you're not good enough, and we think we're imposters in that role. And women struggle with this a lot. Michelle, anything you want to add there?
Well, first of all, she said, I will sometimes, when faced with
That's actually me.
roles, say, I'm not grown up enough for this job. In other words, imposter syndrome.
Yes.
So Shannon and I share, and she's using my Zoom account, so that was actually from me.
Oh, sure. Okay, I'm like, well, I see your face.
I know it's confusing. I was actually trying to figure out how we could each put our names down. If you see mine is on here twice, one Shannon. So that was for me. That's something that I was just sharing. That's something that.
Okay.
I'll say.
Yeah.
Right. So Cheryl, to your point, we think about some of our roles. We get caught in that, like, oh my God, I can't do. I'm not good enough for this. Why? I'm not worthy. Why is this being given to me? When really we have to flip that way of thinking, right? Because yes, we're in our roles for a reason. We should be proud of who we are, but it's hard to embrace some of that sometimes, and that's where that imposter syndrome comes in.
If I can, Jen, I want to tap into Jenny real quick. Jenny Schubring, with you doing the life coaching that you do you see a lot of that people struggling with imposter syndrome?
Yes, that is a very, very normal feeling.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very common, and it's one of the first things we really need to work through in order for us to move forward, because of that enough thing, right? Because we want to, we have to recognize who we are, the beauty that we have, and that's enough to impact the people around us. So that is usually the first thing that we really have to attack when I start working with people.
And Jenny, such a mantra that we should all embrace. I am enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I first heard it, I will tell you, a couple of years ago, I was like, really? But I've gotten over that because it's 100% true.
It's 100% true. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a great reminder for all of us to continue to say that over and over and over, because we second guess it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
And I think the other thing that goes along with, it's kind of like the polar opposite of imposter syndrome is what I call chameleon syndrome. And especially with women, we become someone that we think someone else wants us to be. A perfect example I think of is Julia Roberts' movie Runaway Bride, where she's run away, she's run out on like 6 different rooms. And there's a scene in there where she's sitting in her kitchen and she's got like eggs prepared several different ways. And she doesn't truly understand what eggs are the kind of eggs she likes, because she spent so much time trying to be someone else that she thought this other person wanted them to be. And I think we have a tendency to do that as well.
Yep, absolutely. The power of choice, right? All right, going to our habit 7, the power of contribution. So the next major contributor into maintaining that positive mindset revolves around contribution. So that law of attraction, let's go back to that law of attraction. That law of attraction is magnetic. So what you put out to the world is what you get back. If you look at how you make the world a happier place, the universe will ensure that your generosity, that your compassion, all of that, it's going to make its way back to you. Really, plus that power of positive thinking, studies show that the power of kindness, that when we're kind, we end up feeling happier and our stress levels lower. This has that direct and immediate impact on our ability to think positively, right? I mean, that's it. So to access that power of contribution, start by asking yourself how you're currently contributing to the world. Try to think of so here's kind of your action item here. Take a minute to think about at least 3 to 5 things that you're doing for others. And consider those that are most effective. And then from those 5, try to generate 5 more ideas. So there are really dozens of things that you can do to contribute. Some are personal and they promote happiness in strangers. Some are to contribute to other people's lives by doing things for them. Some is about volunteering. Sometimes it's just listening to people without judgment, and not giving them quick fixes and just being there in the moment. So your key takeaway here is never underestimate how much it means to someone when you try to help them, when you're there to listen to them. And even when it comes to contributing to the lives of strangers, and the lives of others that we might meet in the grocery store, that all generates positivity. And that positivity comes back tenfold. So you might volunteer your hours at a shelter for a few hours. You may be on a helpline for a few hours. You may go visit nursing homes. You may write letters and talk to people, right? It's just, what do you give back to be effective? And how do you contribute that positivity to others? That's the key. Michelle, anything to add? Mute. You're on mute.
How's that? You can't read lips?
I was trying.
Joan just basically said that she loves that you've initiated this series, Jen. You are a great example of positivity, and thank you for being gloriously and authentically you and for keeping all of us connected. Lori completely agreed. Peg agreed. I also agree. I'm thinking we all agree with this. This is such a good reminder, especially in these challenging times that we're facing.
Thank you all, but we do this together, so thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully my positivity is shining through today, right? I'm filling my bucket too. So now that we planted the seed, we planted it, the ability to tap into our positivity, to think positively, to drastically enhance and change our lives, be positive. Positive thinking goes beyond having the drive and motivation for personal success. Positive thinking is explicit, definite, and outspoken. It's contagious, right? It really is. You can feel it. Again, like I had said it in one of the powers, is from the tips of your toes all the way to the top of your head. So build that up for yourself, build that up for your loved ones. We need it now more than ever. And it just allows us all, for that law of attraction, to be open up to bigger and better things as it relates to positivity. So think positive, be positive. What happens? We cope with stress better. We improve health, better relationships, more focused, more confident, more successful, more happiness. All of that comes from choosing the power of positivity. So your action plan, accomplishing great things together. I want you to just sit in your moment, plant those feet on the floor. And I want you to think about how you can build up and inspire and change someone's life for the better by being positive with them today. Who is someone that needs encouragement? Who is someone that needs to be built up? You know it, you feel it, you need to reach out to them today. To build that positivity, to advance that relationship, and to support that law of attraction, because then you're going to get it right back. Great things together, ladies. Final thoughts. Think positive every day, right? That's all we've got. And remember, those negative thoughts do come in. So we've got the power of positivity comes in choosing to get rid of those negative thoughts as well, about ourselves and about others.
So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to unmute everybody. Just
Awesome.
one. And feel free to chime in. I thought
I'll stop sharing so that we can see everybody. Oh, there's everyone.
Yeah,
Awesome.
great turnout.
Jen, this was really the amount of stuff that you put in such a short amount of time. It was fantastic. You did, like, it was really good. So thank you for sharing your insight, and even through a screen, positivity can happen. So
Yeah, that's so true, Jenny.
It's
It's
contagious.
so true. It's contagious.
so
And we
thank you.
did go a little over. We're gonna have to make these longer, ladies. I just think we have to make them longer.
Yeah, I think an hour, 45 minutes or an hour.
At least 45 minutes, I think, would be good.
Yep.
I wondered how you were going to get all that in 30 minutes.
Maybe we'll just have to do an